If you could go back in time and you could either vote for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, who would you rather vote for?
I voted for Trump. I'd vote for him again. I voted for him 3 times.
Okay, why so?
I love his the way he's changing the tone on immigration.
Okay, in what way?
That he is completely. I know that before Trump came on the scene, maybe 2010, 2012, it was like the Gang of Eight. And there were a bunch of Republicans trying to talk about how, oh, we need to allow more immigrants. We need to, give people who are in this country in here already. We need to give them citizenship and forgive their illegal activities in entering the country. And Donald Trump came on the scene, and he immediately ended all of that. I don't know if there's any Republicans who talk about that in that way now. If they are, they're on the way out. And so I think he's changed the Republican Party forever due to his actions, and I'll be forever grateful.
So you want less legal immigration?
I want less immigration in general, both. But
Yeah,
I think illegal is sort of a low hanging
I
fruit,
said
which we
legal.
are. Yeah, I know. I mean, less immigration in general means legal and illegal.
Yeah, so why do you want less immigration in general?
Uh, I think America, our country's often been referred to as a melting pot, right? We're a melting pot of a variety of different countries, and I don't even necessarily disagree with that. I think it's essentially accurate. Uh, but like like melting pots, like America, like melting pots, you got to let them cook. If you have a melting pot and you're just throwing in random ingredients all the time, you're not going to cook anything. You're just going to have a mess. We've had periods in this country where we have had intense immigration in the past, so like the late 1800s. And the result was a bunch of nativist presidents who prioritized limiting immigration, legal and illegal. And, 30, 40, 50 years later, we had total assimilation by those foreigners who, instead of being Italian Americans, instead of being Irish Americans, instead of being German Americans, they were just Americans. JFK, a devout Catholic, was elected to the presidency, which was a big deal then, but not, not now, but it's a big deal then. So I think that if you have a period of intense immigration, you need to have another 40 or 50 years to allow those different cultures and peoples to assimilate.
What do you mean by assimilation?
To adopt American cultures, and also, at least in part, to allow American cultures to adopt yours. Like there is some middle ground.
Okay, so let's go through this. You say like you'll never cook anything if it is the case that you keep it in a pot. I mean, have you ever cooked food before, bro? Things
No,
will be
I'm
cooked
saying if
if
you're if
you
you're
can take things out of it and they'll be cooked.
if you have a melting pot and you're just continuously throwing in ingredients, it's not
Yeah.
melting.
Well, what do you mean by they could be melting if it's
Well,
heated?
when you melt, it's transformative, right? And this is what I'm talking about. This when you assimilate, it is transformative. Your culture has changed, but as is the culture of the country you're entering. Like I said, it's transformative. That's what I mean by melting.
So, but
If
that,
you
I
just
think
continuously
that's an
throw
inherent
ingredients,
aspect of American culture, and the idea that we'd have to stop so that we could have the culture fulfilled doesn't make any sense. I think the culture of America is constantly changing, and I think it should be changing for the better, right? That's what the American dream is about. It's better for your children than it was for you, meaning it's constantly changing. This idea of us staying the same, right, at any
it's
point in
no,
time,
no
is
it's
antithetical to
not
what we
staying the
consider the
same.
American dream.
It's
We
it's
don't ever
saying that
stop.
assimilation takes time. That's what it's
Well,
saying.
I think the idea of
And
assimilation doesn't make any
assimilation
sense.
is a
If what you
process.
mean by assimilation is just people come into our society and they adopt some of the cultures of society we're in, and like we adopt some of theirs, like that's just like
Yes.
immigration and like what happens when people engage with each other. That's not
That
assimilation. Assimilation is when you have a certain set of culture that you want people to conform to in every single which way. That's the idea of assimilation.
yeah, well, I use JFK as an example for a reason because, like I said, if you ask someone in the late 1800s if we'd ever have a Catholic president, they would call you a papist and say, hell no, right? But the point is, by 1960, after 40 or 50 years of intense immigration restrictions, right? There were a number of laws passed in the 1920s reducing immigration, quotas, everything. It fell off a cliff. Anyways,
That's
after
bad. So again, you're not really
decade,
telling
anyway,
me why it's good.
the point is, after decades of that, what do we find? We find that the American people is perfectly willing to vote for a Catholic to be president, and he was a beloved president, right? People loved him, And so that's what I mean. Assimilation is seen as you adopting American culture, but the truth is it's two-sided. That not only does the immigrant, take on the cultural and social attitudes of the host, but the host also changes to accommodate. But the thing is, and the important thing is,
So
this
then
sorts
all
of thing
immigration leads to assimilation.
to mixing, yeah. I mean, that's sort of
So
how
then
it is.
okay, so then what was your point? Is that assimilation is going to
But
occur either way
and my point is, it takes time.
under your
My
perspective?
point is the time.
Okay,
My
well,
point
no,
is time.
but like that, but we don't have to restrict immigration for that to happen.
It worked out in the past.
What do you mean?
We did in the past, and it worked out. It worked
No,
out
how do
successfully.
you tell whether it worked
Some of
out
these
or
spam
versus
calls
it
are.
wouldn't have worked out otherwise?
I mean, I don't have a time machine, so I can't tell you that.
So
But
then you're
I will
making
tell you that
a claim without any evidence.
I will. Well, it's not evidence. We have direct historical evidence. It's more than the otherwise. Like that's the thing. You say we have no evidence, but we actually have historical evidence. It did work out. Like it's. I have more evidence on my side than you have evidence on your side because we've
No.
never had continuous unrestricted immigration in the history of this country. Like that's just never happened. There's always been immigration.
I'm not
and then
advocating for
followed by
continuous
periods.
unrestricted immigration. I think if
Well,
someone's
that's what
been held,
seems like you're
no,
advocating for.
no, if someone's been held civilly liable, I wouldn't want them to be able to legally enter the country.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. That doesn't really limit many people. Like, come on.
Yeah, I was giving an example because that's the president of the United
Yeah,
States.
I
The
know.
president of the
Donald
United States was
Trump.
held civilly liable.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't want
Gotcha.
violent offenders in my country. I don't want violent offenders or in the position of president.
That's like 0.01% of the population. That doesn't really change things.
That's
the thing.
not
It
just the
doesn't
only
matter.
example. If someone has committed a violent crime or bad crime, I'm okay with them being deported on the condition that they're going to be put in a prison in
Okay,
another country, right? But
that's
if they have
5% of the
no,
population.
so then if they have no, if they have
So
no,
you're allowed
Can I
95%
finish?
in.
Yes, I would.
Okay, well that's functionally unrestricted. 95%
No, it's not.
is functionally. Yeah, it actually is.
There are restrictions, right? Saying it's unrestricted because it's not wait, that makes no sense. You agree there are some restrictions, and then you're trying to say it's unrestricted. That's like stupid.
And my point is that if you allow 95% in, it's de facto unrestricted because you're letting
That
almost
makes no
everybody in.
sense. That's incoherent. If you limit 5%, that means you are restricting some. Do you hear yourself?
And my point is, it is still de facto unrestricted because you're letting almost everyone
What
in.
does that even mean?
Well, you're letting in 95% of people.
Yeah, if you have not committed a violent crime or bad crime, I have no issue with you being in this country.
If you ran on as a politician, if you ran on the perspective that you want to allow 95% of people in the world who want to come to this country to move to this country, you would never win. I just want you to know that.
No, listen to this.
Absolutely no one.
No, you need to listen to
Absolutely
this.
no
You
one
need to listen to
agrees
this.
with this position.
No, you're
And let's
misunderstanding the
start from
position.
here.
You're misunderstanding the position, right? Obviously, it is the case that there's not going to be hundreds of millions of people coming to the country. That's not my argument. My argument is that we can have 1 to 3% population growth per year under the guise that we're specifically looking just for those characteristics. If they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime, they're given a pathway to citizenship, and that's going to lead to better outcomes than what we currently have right now. Right now, we are trending towards a reducing population by 2050. That is the inevitable reality. Fertility rates are not going to grow enough to be able to replace the population, enough to be able to uphold the programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and different types of programs that we've relied upon. If you want to continue those types of programs, well, then it's necessary that we have some increased level of immigration in order to be able to account for that, because we have an increasing level of people who are older on Social Security and Medicare for longer periods of time because of increasing life expectancy related to technology, while simultaneously we have less younger people proportionally to be able to fund the tax systems in order to be able to pay for them.
Do you think it's a priority to increase the birth rate of natives to solve these issues as well?
I think it's okay to increase the birth rate in situations where people want to.
Would you say
right? I think
equally as
incentivizing
important?
people to do so through the context of increasing the child tax credit would be a good idea, right? Like
Do you
what
think
Kamala Harris was
do you think it's
advocating for.
equally as important? Do you think it's equally as important as increasing immigration?
I think it's less important than increasing immigration.
Why is it less important?
Because we can't, there's not enough time to be able to produce enough children to be able to respond to those
But
types of issues unless we had
if it's
immigration.
2050, that's 25 years from now. It's 25 years. It's plenty of time.
Yeah, so 25 years
I
from
mean,
now.
you can have
but
multiple
how long does
generations.
it take for these types of programs to actually increase fertility rates enough to the replacement rate?
Well, I mean,
and then
you
by the
could-
time
you
we
could-
get to
you
the
could increase
replacement
the-
rate, that still doesn't mean that we were in the past. So we'd actually have to get above the replacement rate in order to be able to account for everything we've lost, essentially.
You
So
could you could change the child tax credit for next year. I mean, that's the thing. You could
we
start
advocated for
changing.
that. We advocated for that. I advocated.
And I mean, would
Kamala
you
Harris
would you
advocated for a
advocate for a
six
lot of
thousand.
other things?
Kamala Harris, yes. Kamala Harris advocated for a $6,000 child tax credit for the first year of a child's life, 3,600 to them being 5 years old, 3,000 to them being 18, which will help people particularly be in the conditions where they can have children. I don't want to force people to have children. I want them to choose to have children if they want to. And in those contexts are the situations where I would be in support of it increasing, not by force.
I think I have to say I disagree with you fundamentally that immigrants make the country better, and I'll tell you why. And I think this is probably a big part of our disagreement, and why I think liberals disagree with conservatives in general. I see that like the average Americans, the most valuable thing the average American owns is the U.S. citizenship, right? They have the right to be in the country, and it means that they have a much better life than everyone else in the world. And then there's no justification, right? There's no fairness that allows this, right? There's no reason that they deserve it and other people don't, right? Like, but I am a somewhat nationalist person. I'm supposed to be on their team, and if I care about them, I want to continue to allow their membership in this exclusive club to be valuable. And it's the reason it's valuable is it gives them access to the most valuable market in the world, which is the U.S. market, as a consumer and as a worker. And it gives them an entitlement to a variety of government programs and handouts from the U.S. government, which is, of course, the richest government in the world. And I think that as you continually add people to that exclusive membership, it becomes less valuable. And I don't think that's
Okay,
particularly
so when people have more
controversial.
children, does it reduce the valuable aspect of the membership?
It would, yes, it would, yeah.
Okay, so you think it's less valuable to be an American right now than it was to be an American in 1776?
No,
But the population is greater now.
yeah, but that's not the only thing going on, Parker, is it?
Oh, okay. Well, then that's what you were bringing up. So, in what measure would you specifically use to say that being a citizen is more valuable? Is it the economy doing better? Is it technology doing better? Because, I mean, immigration
It's
helps with both of those.
it's technological and productivity growth, I would say.
Okay, so the immigration helps with that.
So do children.
Okay, so why can't you do both?
I mean,
Why can't you allow
first
for
of
more
all,
immigration, right? And also incentivize people to be able to have children to a greater extent in situations where they want to.
because first of all, there's many more people in the world who would be loved to come to to America if they could be granted citizenship
Great.
than there are American people who could have children. Like that's the thing. Like if you
Okay.
have
So,
you at any given moment you only
oh
have a
wait,
certain
wait,
amount.
wait, wait. What do you mean by American people that can have children? It sounds like you're almost trying to run down like something that seems a little bit pretty far right, but you don't want to say it directly.
What what do I mean by American people who can have children? Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, what are you saying? Like
there's a
the
certain
are you saying like the ethnicity of America is going to change?
American people can have children. They are people who are like 18 to 35. They're married or they're in a relationship, and they can have children. That's like I don't know. At any given moment, that's probably like less than twenty
But no,
percent
but
of
you
the
were bringing up
population.
it up as an issue that there could be more people that want to come to the country through the context of immigration than there
Yeah,
are people to
there
have
are.
children. So it sounds like you're trying to argue an idea of quote unquote replacement.
Dude, I don't know what you're even talking about.
I'm sorry. What I just said clearly made sense. You were bringing it
Think
up. It
of,
was
it's
an,
a
you were
it's a
bringing it up as an
ratio.
issue. You were bringing it up as an issue that more people want to come to the country through the context of immigration than there are people who are younger that will have children, which is specifically
Think of it.
going
Think
at
of
an
it.
idea trying to argue against the idea of quote unquote replacement. And what is the idea of quote unquote replacement
I
associated
don't
with?
know what
Far right neo advocate the great replacement theory.
I don't know who you're what you're arguing against right now, but it's not me. I'm talking about the ratio of people. So at any given moment in our country, we have around 20% of the population who can have children. What that means is that, this danger of our exclusive citizenship into this productive club that is being an American citizen is never being in danger of being overwhelmed by children because only a certain ratio of people in the country can reasonably have them. It's just simply not possible.
So what
But
percent of
think of no,
immigration
let me
would it?
finish.
No, 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 no. What percent
Think
of
of the
immigration
ratio of
would it be too
immigrants.
much of change? That's essentially what you're trying to arguing. At what ratio would you say that immigration is too much?
Well, I mean, if we said that, say, anyone who wants to come to the country, or sorry, not anyone, 95% of the people who wanted to come into this country right now could become citizens, I think you would have a number of people who, in excess of the total amount of the people in the country, I think you could easily reach 300 million people, and that's like obviously too many, right?
Hey,
I think
listen here.
everyone agreed
What
that's
did
obviously too
I
many.
said specifically 1 to 3% population growth.
You said 95% people should be allowed in. That's what you
Yeah, I
said.
said that's the criteria that we look for.
And that's
But
why
there's a
I said
wait,
it is
listen. That's the
functionally
wait, hold up.
unrestricted.
No, you're not understanding. I've clarified this position multiple times, and it sounds like you're using this to deflect away from the original question I asked you. And I'm going to restate this again, right? I don't know how this is like. What was your understanding of my position? How about this?
You said that you would allow 95% of the people who wanted to come into this country and become
Is that all
American
I said?
citizens. What level would you like to cap immigration? What number?
Oh, what did I say?
I don't know. What did you say?
I
You tell
did
me.
say I said 1 to 3% population growth, and I said this 3 times. Okay, so
So
listen to what I'm
that's
saying.
what
Stop that's a straw man. What you just did. 95% would qualify, but only a certain amount of people would be allowed to be able to come in because it is the case that we specifically can only have a certain level of population growth. If it was 300 million people at once, there's no possible way we could respond to that. But at a rate of 1 to 3%, that's something we could easily
would
respond
you
to.
how would you pick them?
I just told you. I said that was a set of qualifications.
No, you said 95%. I mean, how would you pick them? If you said in the world we want, we're gonna allow 3 million people into the country every year. That's 1%, really 3.5. How would you pick them? Because you'd have more than that.
I just told you the set of qualifications would just be
What
specifically.
qualifications?
I told you, right? You haven't had a violent criminal history, right? Haven't committed a bad crime, right? And it is the case that you specifically. That's really all I would look at, right? So that's the set of qualifications,
And what would
right?
happen if you
Can I
had
please
more
finish?
than
Can I
three and
please
a half
finish?
million?
That's the set of qualifications that I look at. Outside of that connotation, I don't think there are valid qualifications to look at. And then there's a certain cap that you're going to have on this. So that's the qualifications you look at.
So would you use the lottery? Just it's like, say you had 5 million people who wanted to come in, and you can only accept 3.5. How would you choose?
If you could only accept 3.5, you would specifically yes through the context of that system. Yeah,
So you do a lottery.
absolutely. It would be a similar
We,
system like that. It would be randomized.
what about like a point system like Canada has? You don't agree with that?
I'd have to look at the point system.
It gives points to a variety of like socially helpful characteristics, like for instance, young people, married people, people who have advanced degrees, just a variety of things that can be beneficial to the host country, shall we say?
Yeah, but you're also
And
assuming
obviously, the
that
higher
like 10 million people want to come into our country in 1 year, right?
we have or at least previous to the border enforcement, we had millions of people coming in here illegally
Oh,
in the
can
past
you?
several years.
Okay,
We
so
have proof of
do you think it
that.
was open?
I would say it was legally not open, but it was de facto. Perhaps not
So
open,
if it
but
was
more open
if
than
it was
now.
so was it de facto open?
Probably, I don't know. Open is a hard term. It was easier.
And yet still there wasn't anywhere near that many people per year.
We actually don't know.
We do.
It's that we don't know
There
how
was
many
around
illegal
like
immigrants
8
are in the
million
country right
people
now.
that came into the country.
It could be. I've heard 10 million 10 years ago, Parker. It very well could be 20 now. We really don't know.
Okay.
And you have to admit that.
So again, we're talking like
And
8 million new people, right? So you can again, were you saying 20 million people in 4 years? Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm saying there are 20 million. There could be as many as 20 million undocumented immigrants in the country right now,
Okay.
and we don't know.
Okay, then let's provide them a pathway to citizenship. If you have not committed a violent crime or bad crime, we should provide them a pathway to citizenship. They're already in the country undocumented. And then we need to make our legal processes go significantly quicker. The vetting process
I
needs
don't
to be
agree with that.
significantly quicker.
So 20 million is in excess of that 1% that you were talking about, by the way.
Well,
It's
they're
about
already in the
6%.
country.
Yeah, well, they're not an American citizen. They're not a member of that club. Like,
But
remember what I was
they're
talking about?
already in the country. I consider them citizens.
But they don't have a legal
under
right
my
to that
system.
club.
Well, I'm
See, they
currently,
don't
they don't have a
under
currently
my
legal,
system.
they don't have a recognized legal status, but they should.
Right, but you just agreed that like that's too many people. Like that's more than what you would recommend. And so you as a politician, if you were,
What is one? Wait. What is 3% of
so
the U.S.
1% would be
population?
3.5, 2% would be 7. So you're advocating, around 6 or 7, depending on how many actual really undocumented people we have
That'd
in
be
this country.
2%. 3% would be like 9 to 10 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like I said, it's more.
And
I've heard 10
that's
million.
about
10
how
years
many
ago.
people. That's about how many people came in over the 4 years. Less than that came in 4 years.
I know, but total is obviously more than that, right?
Okay.
And
But they're already in the country.
right, but
So
they're not.
I
They
don't have
have
an
no.
issue. I
They
don't have an
no
issue because they're
legal-
already in the country.
Yeah, but Parker, they have no legal right to this club that I said grants so many
Yes,
advantages.
they do. I think that they have a legal right.
You just because you think they do, they aren't eligible.
Well,
for
just because you
Social
think they
Security.
don't doesn't mean they
aren't
don't, right?
eligible for Medicaid. They
What's
aren't
that?
eligible for Medicare. Or at least they.
Well, yeah,
hopefully
currently
are.
under the system right now, I'm saying they should have a legal right.
Right, but if you include them, you're making the membership of this club, who is what our fellow citizens have right now,
I'm sorry.
less valuable.
You're like such a snowflake, man. Membership of this club, man. Oh my God, we have to make this club super exclusive. Oh my
Is this
God, like
where you
if
make
this
fun
club
of
doesn't
me?
become more exclusive, it's bad when immigrants come here because that makes the club less exclusive. But specifically when
Is
we have
this-
more
is
children,
this where
it
you
actually
make
makes the
fun of
club
me?
better. It makes the club
Is
better.
this where you make fun of me because I've
Yes,
proved
because
that
what
you're
you said
harming
was
your fellow
no.
citizens?
What you said made no sense, and you're not giving me an actual argument at this point. You just keep
No,
repeating the same bull.
I've backed you into a corner where you can't
On what?
admit that allowing 20 million people to become citizens all at once will in fact reduce the quality of your fellow American citizens' life and
No,
their
in
livelihood.
what way?
And
In
they
what
get
way?
from the government.
Tell me in what way?
Okay, so it grants them access to a number of expensive government programs that they previously don't have access to. For instance, Social
But they're also
Security.
paying more into the tax system. So proportionally, they'd pay more into the tax system than they'd be taking out of it, especially because they have a higher labor force participation rate than natural-born U.S. citizens. Try again.
Second of all, they are they can now at least legally work for U.S. governments. You're giving them, or sorry, not U.S. governments, for U.S. businesses. You're
Yes.
giving them access to an extremely valuable labor market. Like
Great.
there's really no justification.
Amazing. We love that.
But what it does is it makes the labor of the people who are already here less valuable.
No, it doesn't. Because
It would
it increases supply and demand.
Parker, if you introduce 20 million new workers, or
They're
let's
already
say
in
it's
the
not-
country working, and they're working for lower wages than currently minimum wage. If you give them legal status, it increases how much they can get paid, therefore increasing wages. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Try again.
So magically increasing the labor force by 15 million people.
Wait, I'm
would
sorry.
not-
They're already in the country, and they're working for below minimum wage. If they're working for
They are
below
working-
minimum wage, and they're working for less than what they can in the context of the market, because they're in the country undocumented, and they're not held to the same market standards, then it is the case that they're going to actually increase wages if they're given legal status, because then they can actually advocate themselves for higher wages.
Parker, their wages will increase. You're absolutely right.
No.
the American
American system will
wages
increase
will
in wages.
decrease.
No, that's wrong.
That's not correct, Parker. I'm sorry.
It is correct. It is correct. Wait,
15 million
give
more
me
people
one
who can-
economist that agrees with you. You're wrong. You're literally absolutely wrong.
That adding more labor.
No, not
will
adding. That's
decrease
specifically giving a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants that are already in the country. Wages will increase because they will accept higher wages.
Will increase for
Yes.
them.
No, it will
not
increase
for
for everyone
everyone.
in society. Because think about it this way.
That's
Think about it this way.
absolutely not the
No.
case.
Think about it this way. Think about it this way. You're an American citizen trying to get a job, right? There are people that are accepting lower wages in the context of the market. That means from an employer perspective, there are the workers that they can specifically get access to in terms of who they could hire, right? They specifically are accepting on average a lower wage, right? If it is the case that they're giving legal status, now the accepted on average legal wage is higher, right? So if the accepted on average wage is higher, then it is the case that from an employer perspective, you have to pay more. Right, and from an employee perspective, right, you specifically will get paid more, even for people who are in the country who are already citizens.